Hey there, welcome to Mad Mel's Mic. Thanks for joining me. My name is Melissa and this is a podcast all about me, about my life with PTSD, about my life with a husband and kids and friends and everything in between. Thanks for tuning in. Hey everybody, and welcome to Mad Mel's Mic Season 2. Thanks for joining me today. I have my brother with me and we're going to dive into what it is like growing up together, my time in the police, how PTSD impacted both of us, and how our relationship has evolved over time. All right, Matthew, before we get into it, I'm handing it over to you. Let's start with, firstly, how are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. Fez, how are you going?
Very good. Well, I'm actually glad you called me Fez. Let's start with that, because I've had a few people say to me, obviously the podcast is called Mad Mel's Mic. When I interviewed Emma and Mum and Dad, they all referred to me as Liz, and they're going, how many names can one person have? And then here you go calling me something else. So where did Fez come from?
It's far out. It was back with our childhood, and so everyone understands there's a 7-year age gap between myself and you. And I think at the time, as a late teen, 17, 18, I've got this 10, 11-year-old sister running around and getting everything. And so I just started calling you Ferret, because it wouldn't matter where I was, what I was trying to do, you were just annoying the crap out of me. And so Ferret, and over the years, it's just kind of morphed into Fez, which is just a shortened version of Ferret, but you will always be Ferret in my eyes.
Yeah, and it's funny because I know one of your boys calls me Auntie Fez, and I actually quite like it. So, yeah, keep it up.
Yeah, you definitely know that. And they know the reason why as well, which is cool.
Yeah, because I was a little ferret.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
So it
term of
wasn't
endearment,
anything
though.
denegative or demeaning or anything like that. It was just, I didn't know what else to call you, I suppose. And being that
Melissa?
young, yeah, Melissa's too boring.
Yeah. All right, so let's start with the song of the week. And as all my guests on here, I give it over to who I'm interviewing as to the song of the week. So what's this week's one, Matthew?
I've decided to choose Linkin Park, Heavy is the Crown.
Yeah, nice. All right, so let's have a listen to it now.
On the floor again, one knock at the door and then we both know how the story ends. You can't win if your white flag's out when the war begins. Aiming so high but springing so low, trying to catch fire but feeling so cold. Hold it inside and hope it won't show. I'm saying it's not, but inside I know today's gonna be the day you notice, cause I'm tired of explaining what the joke is. This is what you asked for, heavy is the crowd. Fire in the sunrise, ashes raining down. Try to hold it in, but it keeps bleeding out. This is what you asked for, heavy is the crowd.
Awesome. That was a great song. Thanks for sharing that. And what was your purpose for sharing that?
It's it's been resonating. We had a tough probably 18 months, 2 years in business and sort of personal finance stuff and things like that, which led to us making some fairly significant decisions, which weren't pleasant. And I think this song resonated at the time to me. Heavy is the crown. You've kind of bought it on yourself. This is the life that I chose, and working for myself for a very, very long time. And I don't know, it just kind of, I suppose, while I was having a bit of a pity party, it just really resonated with, this, you've only got yourself to blame as such.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. So thank you. In that one answer, you've answered my next question, so I'm not going to have to ask you that one. All right, let's get into the nitty gritty of growing up together and the sibling dynamic. What was your earliest memory of us growing up together?
There was, as I mentioned earlier, 7 years difference. So,
can I just stop? Was it 7 or 6? I always thought it was 6.
I always thought it was 7. But I'm 78, January 78. What are you?
84.
Ah, well, 6. Okay, so
anyway.
I'm glad we're doing this interview. I get to learn more about my sister. So 6 years. 6. So yeah, even still, there's a significant gap, right? And Emma was only 17 months, I think, younger than me. So we were fairly tight, and as we were, but just different. So when I was 10, you were 4. When I was 16, you were 10, when I was 20, you were
Yeah.
14, so there was that gap, and the things that I was going through were unrelatable to you and what you were sort of going through. And plus you were the youngest. I mean, you were the favorite and you got away with everything. And I got a wooden spoon if I didn't put the knives and forks away properly. And here you are running around causing havoc without any consequence whatsoever,
And we all
which
know,
is
as parents now, we all know what it's like, because by the time I had Cliff the third, you sort of don't care. You got
no,
four. It's
well,
like by the time they will come along, it's like, I'll do whatever you want. I can't be bothered.
I don't even know where Edward is most of the time. But but yeah, so that was. But one of the, I suppose, one of the funniest things. You were just a horrible sleepwalker, sleep talker, and I can remember I had the room closest to mum and dad, and then you were next to me, and then Emma was at the end. And I'd just be woken up to you literally sprinting up and down the hallway, and we had a very, very long hallway. It was probably 20 meters long. And then you do go up and down 4 or 5 times, and then literally sit cross-legged at the foot of your door, just asleep. And it scared the absolute crap out of me. I actually thought back then you were, you know,
Possessed.
possessed. And we need to carry out an exorcism at 10 years of age. But yeah, I mean, that was cool. I remember in your room as well, Mum used to do that. I forget what it's called, but some sort of artwork painting.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what it's exactly called, but yeah, I
It's
do.
almost like a paint by numbers type thing in
Yeah, that's
today's
right.
sort
Yep.
of.
Yeah. And I remember it just said, please be patient. God isn't finished with me yet.
Yeah.
And I think we can have that on hanging on our wall till the day we die, all of
Yeah.
us. But yeah, I remember that. I remember as you got older, you were a bit of a wild child. You used to jump out the fly screen window and go and do what you needed to do and all this sort of stuff.
I
And
really hope
again,
mum and dad
as
don't listen.
the youngest, as I said, I used to get in trouble for looking the wrong way, I used to get in trouble if I wasn't holding the torch correctly while Dad was trying to fix a mower or the car.
Yeah, we all got
And
in
here you
trouble
are,
for that.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and here you are jumping out of windows and stuff like that. So my fondest memory, I think, and I suggest this is something that runs through the youngest kids or the youngest, sibling or son or daughter, is the confidence. Yeah, I think as the first child, even the second child, somewhat. I mean, you're raised definitely differently, and you're probably a little more conscious of your actions and decisions. And I see Edward now, and I saw in you as well, just this level of confidence, which I always loved. You had that self-confidence and never scared to hold back your thoughts and things like that. So I really respected that, and I still do even now.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. And I think you have touched on it a bit, but how would you have described me honestly as a kid?
Oh, great. I mean, and again, I got my P's at 17. I was an apprentice panel beater at then, and as soon as I got my P's, I was gone. I
Yeah.
wasn't at home much, exploring the world and doing all the things that I
Yeah.
probably shouldn't have been doing myself. But so that would have put you at around,
11.
11 or 12. So there wasn't a great deal of, one-on-one connection, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. I was sort of home for dinner a lot of the times and stuff like that. But I think you were a great kid. As I said, you were confident. You certainly were respectful and stuff like that of mum and dad. And yeah, that's pretty much all I can remember, really.
Yeah. I think when you say respectful of mum and dad, I think that was probably partly fear as well. I'm still scared of them.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm 48. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So it is hard because there is such an age gap between us. And I think our relationship has sort of evolved differently as we've gotten older. But what was our dynamic growing up? Like, would you say we were mates or rivals or a bit of both?
Bit of both. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've both very similar personalities.
Yeah, we are.
So we often clashed, and I think the older you got as well, when you went through your teens and became an adult, that was probably when we probably clashed the most, I suppose, because
Yeah.
it wasn't as though I was 17 fighting with an 11-year-old. It became
Yeah.
more sort of mid-20s fighting with an adult. But again, it was just because we're the same personality. I can see that with Harrison and Edward now, my kids, and particularly me and Harrison.
Yeah.
We share the same nature. Thomas and Ava are very much like Kelly, so it's got that good dynamic within the household. But yeah, when we were going good, we were going good. You know, we had a lot of fun together, outdoors and indoors, and even doing the dishes and stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah.
From my memory, I would say, looking back, we were either best of mates or worst of enemies.
Yeah,
like there
I
was
agree.
sort of nothing in between. We were either blueing because we're both stubborn enough and determined enough to get what we want, but then when we were both on the same page, we were loving life together.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, I
definitely.
agree. And that's exactly like Harrison and Edward. And, you know, you can see them, they're best of mates. And at the click of fingers, they just want to murder each other.
Yep. Yep. All right.
And I think it's good. I think it's good. I've learned a lot over life, and I couldn't think of anything worse than sitting at a dinner table and everyone just nodding their head, agreeing with everything.
Oh, hell no.
Um,
But that doesn't
I
teach
love,
anybody anything either.
yeah, that's right, exactly. So I think the dynamics of us growing up and now as both adults and parents, I think it's brilliant, honestly.
All right. So if they made a movie about our childhood, who would play us?
Who would what? Sorry?
Who would play us?
Oh dear. Um, well, I mean, trying to be as humble as I can here, but Daniel Craig jumps to mind initially for me.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
No, I don't know.
It's a
I
it's a
do love
hard
the action
question.
movies and stuff like that. So I imagine if they're making a movie, they're really going to play up the bad stuff we did and the fun
Yeah.
stuff that we did. So
Yeah.
yeah, probably an actor that's a bit cheeky and outgoing and
Yeah,
yeah.
I definitely agree. For me, I'd probably say somebody, I don't know, Will Ferrell rings to mind for you.
Yeah.
And I'd go someone
That's
like
cool.
Jennifer Lawrence um um or Margot Robbie, someone hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. I'm
um
happy to assist them with the acting.
yeah, sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. So what did you think when I joined the police?
I was pretty scared for you.
Mm.
I can't remember now. I think I might have been out bush as a jackaroo at the time when you decided that.
So I was
Um,
18 at the academy. So that would have put you what, 24?
24. Oh, no. So I would have been back in Sydney then. I was married at 22. So we were probably living at Bligh Park. But either way, yeah, that initial thought, like, honestly, I was so excited for you. I think compared to probably a lot of female police officers, you were really inept for it. Just with your physical stature and also, being raised on a few acres with rifles and stuff like that. So you were no stranger to those sorts of things. And I actually remember one of your first shoots. I think you got close on 100%
Yeah.
compared to a lot of the other cadets. And I think that's just being surrounded by that sort of stuff. But on the flip side, I was genuinely scared as well.
Yeah.
We grew up at Schofield, so we're pretty close to Mount Druitt and stuff like that, where you ended up. I went to TAFE at Mount Druitt, so I was no stranger as well with the goings on around there, and I did quite a lot of work around there as well. So yeah, I was both genuinely excited for you and very, very nervous as well.
Mm.
Not nervous for your capability, but
Yeah.
nervous of what you would see and
Yeah.
nervous of what was out there because we had a great childhood, but it was very sheltered.
100% it was. Yeah.
And we certainly weren't streetwise at all, in my opinion. I mean, I rode the pushy to Schofields, but it was an 80-kilometre farm road, really.
Yeah.
Other than driving to North Ryde and stuff like that, we never really had any exposure to the city or to those sort of bad places either. And so, yeah, I was a bit concerned.
Yeah. And that's like, I think in hindsight, particularly as a parent now myself, I can see that. Like, people have asked me, like, what would you do if one of your kids joined the cops? And I certainly wouldn't discourage it because it was a great job, but I would be fearful and concerned. And I remember, and I spoke about this when I interviewed mum and dad, that I remember mum saying to me, and I can't remember how long I'd been in the job or not, but she said, Melissa, if Cops turned up at my door, I knew something would happen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's a pretty horrible thought. And
but
why you dry your eyes, Fez. I'll touch a bit on that too. See, I've always wanted to be military from
yeah,
as young as I can remember,
that's all I
and
remember
probably
wanting.
to now. Yeah, and it wasn't. I think I was 13 or 14, that I was properly diagnosed with a missing nerve running from the back of the cochlea to the brain. So I'm totally deaf in my left ear, and that proper broke me. But I reflect on that often and think, wow, what a different outcome my life would be. There's a possibility that I would never have married Kelly, and stuff like that. And I often think with my boys, I've got 3 boys. If one of them wanted to pursue a career in the armed forces, I would, the same as what I was for you, I would genuinely be excited because I think it's a wonderful career and there's so many opportunities within the armed forces, not just cannon fodder. But that very thing, I mean, you watch movies or, docos and all the rest of it, and you see those people knocking on the front door. It's like, oh, I
Yeah,
don't know whether I could handle it. And to think that I was sort of encouraged that. So
yeah,
yeah, I get it.
yeah.
It
It's
definitely
a
plays
fine
on your
line, isn't it?
heartstrings. But again,
And
like, where do you draw the line though, Fez? Do we not do things based on the ultimate fear of the worst outcome? I
no,
mean, we
100%
could
not.
apply
We
that to every part of our lives. Should I become an entrepreneur, particularly in, this day and age with war and stuff like that? I mean, you wouldn't leave the house
no,
if you were
exactly. Yeah,
motivated by fear
yeah,
or whatever. So yeah.
yeah. That's exactly right. So, how did you see me during that time? Did I seem different at all while I was in the job? Like, did you see any changes in
Yep.
my personality and things like that?
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. There was a definitive change in your personality, for the better. Um, there, I watched a young girl grow up to be a teenager and then grow up to be a young adult and then join the coppers, and because I mean you're in Goulburn for some time, so there was significant breaks, in between, visitations or whatever when we caught up. And yeah, the confidence that you, built during that time, even in the academy and then over the years as well, was significant. Honestly, it was profound how you went from,
Yeah.
and you weren't a shy recluse as such, but definitely like you put that badge on and you became this superpower.
Yeah, it's funny because I never saw that. But it's interesting to see different people's perspectives on that change.
So
But
you've heard that from a few people?
yeah, I think so. Like for me, I know that there was change. Like I know spending that amount of time in the cops, I became very cynical, and I was the type of person. I think that just comes with the nature of the job, where it's like, oh, and I know the law says you're innocent until proven guilty, but we as the police sort of had the persona of you're guilty until you're proven innocent. Like, so
Yeah.
yeah, I did become very, very cynical, but yeah,
And
I
I think that
just,
played out in conversations as well when we met.
yeah,
I'm forever the optimist, and that's got me into some strife as well, being, the massive risk taker.
yeah,
Thankfully, Kelly's quite opposite, which has kind of leveled it out. But yeah, definitely in conversations and stuff like that, when you had an opinion,
well, that was it.
you became a good sparring partner, that's for sure.
Oh, that's
and
so
and
funny.
let's not beat around the bush. I'm always one for a good henpeck.
Yeah.
And I always knew how to get under your skin, so I probably
Oh,
played on that a little bit as
you
well.
still bloody do.
That's the joys of being a big brother.
Yep, yeah. And what was it like for you knowing the kind of things I might be exposed to on the job?
Oh, horrible. As I said earlier, I knew what was out there, particularly in the domestic violence side of things around Mount Druitt and Bidwell, Shalvey, all of those suburbs,
Yeah,
Tregear, Emerton. Yeah, it was that, and that's what I, touched on before. I mean, to go from such a sheltered life, and when I say sheltered, just to clarify for the listeners, it's not as though we were locked up every night or whatever. It
No.
was just that we grew up in a Christian house and stuff like that. So we just weren't exposed to drinking and
Yeah.
violence, and we had great parents that didn't beat on each other and stuff like that. So for you to be exposed to that coming from a place of not knowing it,
Yeah.
that was a genuine fear. I mean, yeah, talk about a baptism of fire.
Yeah, and I think Mount Druitt was certainly a sink or swim station, and you didn't have much of
Yeah.
a choice but to get through it. But I certainly learnt very quickly that there is an other side of the world,
Oh
and we
yeah.
were very sheltered from that other side of the world,
Yeah.
which in hindsight is actually quite nice. But yeah, and I certainly wouldn't change our childhood at all. But yeah, it did expose me to a lot of things which changed my perspective on the world,
Yeah.
and not necessarily for the better.
No,
Um,
I agree, and I think that not it's not just insulated to yourself either and
yeah.
Carl, but I mean, even Ambos, every first
Oh,
responders, really,
100%.
they're all in the same boat, and it just takes a special person. I've never, yeah, I've dreamt of being in the army and stuff like that, and I think that's completely different to being a first responder, because you're just dealing with, like, you're dealing with a demographic which is bottom of the barrel,
Yeah.
unfortunately, and there's
And
no
so
other
there's a
really.
saying in the cops that you deal with 5% of the population 95% of the time. And that's
Correct.
what it
Yeah.
was. Like we
Yeah.
would like you would go to these houses time and time again, and you'd know them by name because
Yep.
it was just that repetitive cycle.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
And I
it
remember
was.
stories you telling me of even chicks getting pregnant just to get the baby bonus and stuff like that. And then you'd see the baby get born because you'd called out there so often, but they've got new TVs and new
Oh,
PlayStations, and
100%.
the baby gets neglected. And
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
a
and it's
sad
just a
state of affairs.
vicious cycle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so with my diagnosis, there wasn't a specific lead up. Like for me, my PTSD sort of, there was one job, the straw that broke the camel's back. Um, but what do you remember of that time? So that's going back 5 years.
Yeah. Hindsight's horrible and good, but there were significant incidents that I recall you during your time on the police that I knew would have an adverse effect,
Yeah.
and that was way before 5 years. I remember you were part of JERT, I think it was called at the time, which was the juvenile,
Oh yeah, the child
whatever.
abuse squad.
Yeah, yep. So you're part of that, and I think Mackenzie was only young. You may have had Rory at the time as well, and you were on the side of things where you were looking after the kids rather than apprehending the actual perpetrators. And I can remember having conversations with you over the phone, with you just describing what you saw. And it's not good for a mother. I don't think it's good
Yeah.
for any person to witness what you witnessed. So I remember that. I remember stories out when you were at Walgett, and that was a completely different set of circumstances from Mount Druitt, but just horrible as well, with the exposure that you saw with that. And I mean, missing persons up in Lightning Ridge, Grawin, and all those sorts of
Yeah.
places. And I mean, you're only human, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we all like to think we're tough and we can isolate parts of our brain that we put them in little pockets or whatever. But subconsciously, I knew that they would be affecting you, and
Yeah.
it's hard as well because you see those things, but what do you do as a brother? Walk up and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, listen, you got to get out."
Yeah.
You can't do that,
Mm.
and you probably didn't recognise it as being, I don't know, as detrimental as it turned out to be at the
Yeah.
time. And so I think over the years there were certainly heaps of, and I do mean that, heaps of incidents that you witnessed. That led to that straw that broke the camel back. Yeah, I
Yeah.
recall that incident. And then there was another incident that really finished you off
Yeah.
as such after that major one as well at Orange. And yeah, I mean, it just broke my heart every time I would hear it. And there was nothing more I could do other than, whoa, that's a horrible story, or I hope you're doing okay, or just offer
Yeah.
those kind of superficial
Yeah.
support.
And there is not like being in the job, you can't pick and choose what jobs you go into, particularly when you're in remote regions like Walgett. You're the only car on, so you're it. You have to go. And I would spend a lot of time supervising out in those places, so I was sort of calling the shots and stuff like that. So I had to be the strong one and things like that. And I think that just comes with the nature of the job anyway. But it's funny that you've mentioned, like when I was at CAS, and those things, because that actually has never come in as any of my trauma. They weren't like, I know when shit hit the fan in January 2021, I was having nightmares of car accidents that I had been to 18 years before, which I thought I had dealt with. But like you said, they were in just a pocket of my brain that hadn't ever been resolved, and they reared its ugly head again. So, yeah.
And I think the period of time which you were part of the cops too, and now still having mates in ambos and coppers and fireys as well. Only in recent times have they actually addressed these issues, and have really made an effort. And I take my hat off to them. It's probably 20 years too late, but PTSD, trauma, you guys turning up first to scene to all of these things does come at a significant cost. And the times where you were seeing these and witnessing these, there was no real, debrief or mental support or anything like that, counselling. And the only reason I say that, it's because nothing compared to what you went through on a day-to-day basis, but when we nearly lost Ava to that massive brain bleed, I still think that there's times now, and that was what, I can't remember, 2016, 2017, so coming on, no, she was 15, so it was I don't even know, 4 or 5 years ago, but there's still moments when I
it was definitely longer than that, because I was in the cops.
Well, there you go.
So
and it just, you think that you deal with it and you kind of put it at the back of your head because you've got things to do, you've got people to take care of, you've got kids to parent, you've got money to make, you've got all these different things, so you do put it away, but it never goes until you actually really address the issue at hand. And that's why I say I think it's really good that these guys are getting the support that they need. And I believe there's a massive percentage, and it's pretty crazy, the percentage of coppers and ambos and stuff that are off on PTSD leave. It's a massive percentage now.
Yeah, it's huge. Like there's, particularly in the last sort of 3 or 4 years, there's been a massive increase in spiraling. So what was it like for you seeing that sudden shift in me?
Oh, it was horrible. You can't sympathize because you've never been through it, but you can certainly empathize. But there's nothing you can do other than pray. And the feeling of helplessness, like, is horrible. And I can only imagine what mum and dad went through. But as a big brother, you just I don't know, you just want to reach out and give you a cuddle, and in spite of knowing that that's not going to fix anything. But the feeling of helplessness, witnessing what you went through, was massive, and for my whole family,
Yeah, definitely. So from your point of view, what was it like watching me deal with PTSD? And I think you've touched on that sort of already as well.
Just pure helplessness, sadness, empathy, all of these things went through us. I mean, we visited you. I would have loved to have visited you more, and it's a difficult choice, right? Because you want to be there all day, every day, but I know that during that time probably would have had an adverse effect as well, because you needed the time. So you kind of, it's difficult because you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You stay at home and you feel guilty for not doing anything, but then when you go, you kind of feel guilty for intruding. And every time I went, I just cleaned out your chocolate drawer anyway.
Oh, you did a pretty good job of that. But look, in saying that too, I always appreciated your visits as well. Like, it was always welcomed. And yes, I know when I was having my inpatient stays, I was there for a purpose. And for me, that was my sole purpose. Like I wasn't there for a holiday or anything like that. I was there for my own mental health. But it
Yeah.
is always nice because for me, people showing up showed me that I was loved. And I think at that
Yeah.
time, particularly, my self-worth and my self-love was zero. So knowing that people took the time out of their day to come and see me reassured that yes, I am worthy, I am enough, and that I am
Yeah.
loved. So yeah, it certainly didn't go unappreciated, that's for sure.
But and on the flip side of that, that's where there was that guilt as well on my part because there wasn't enough either.
Mm,
So it was just really, really. You asked what it was like. It was very, very difficult to navigate.
yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me was my ignorance um, and
Mm,
almost disbelief to PTSD. We I was raised. I'm a Gen Xer, so it was kind of I read something the other day. We're raised on hose water and hard love.
yeah.
In comparison to now this generation and the generations past, but so there was definitely an ignorance to that, and I kind of thought, she'll be right. You know, initially that was probably my first reaction. Yeah, she's just having a bad day, or and that's pretty crappy. But then as time evolved and the PTSD really, really shone through, I'm like, this is actually a thing, hey. And I spent a lot of time researching it. Actually,
Yeah.
there was a lot of stuff that you sent to me as well. Music's played a massive part of my life. I think music's a great outlet, and some of the songs that you sent to me. What's his name? Ren. There was a couple of those. I remember
Oh yeah.
watching Ren at Christmas one year at Mum and Dad's, and I remember watching it the first time thinking, Fez, you got to stop listening to this stuff,
Yeah, I remember that.
But yeah, and I think I even elaborated on that to you, but I know that it's good for you to have that as an outlet.
Yeah. 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 And look, music has been a huge part of my journey as well. And like growing up, I was always listening to music. I remember getting in trouble off Emma singing in the shower while she was trying to study. And so for me, music has
Yeah.
been huge. But when my head first broke, I stopped listening to music altogether. And
Mm.
it was gone. Like I couldn't do it. Like I'd always have the radio on quietly. So I had a little bit of noise, but there was no sort of enjoyment from music. And I remember Fight Song by Rachel Patton came on in the radio one day, and I actually just turned it up and blared it, and I just started bawling my eyes out. And it was at that
Yeah.
moment that I started to really enjoy and getting back into my music and really looking at the words and going, what is this saying to me? And I think that's why I continue with the song of the week, because it does, like songs can be interpreted differently, and that's why I always
Mhm.
speak about how it affects me, like what I see from that song and stuff like that as well, and hopefully other people can see that as well. So
Yeah.
yeah. Were there times where you felt unsure on how to help, or like you had to take a step back?
Yep. That was most
Yeah.
of the time, I think. Because you just don't know, right? You don't know whether coming in, visiting you, being all happy and jovial, and almost carefree, whether that would then affect you. And my brain is probably a lot like yours as well. We probably overthink a lot of things, and our brains um, never stop. So you kind of, yeah, as I said, your motivation, right, is to go into the hospital and really bring love and really bring joy. But but I was also conscious of going in too overjoyed or too
Yeah.
peace filled or that, thinking it might have an adverse effect because then it
Yeah.
might play on your head, thinking, look at Matt, he just seems so happy, and
Yeah.
he's not going through what I'm going through and all the rest of it. So, and then adversely, you're walking miserable. Well, that's no help either. So it was probably um, the best way to. I'm trying to articulate the best I can, but the journey for mum and dad, Emma and myself was probably as significant as it was for you, but
100%.
just from a different perspective, if
Mm,
that makes sense. We weren't going through it; our heads weren't broken, but we were certainly feeling your pain. We were crying with you. We were
yeah.
praying for you. I was sending you heaps of Bible verses and all this sort of stuff. So you're always on the forefront of our mind. But what do you do? We've
Yeah.
never been
And
through this before. I don't have friends that have been through. I
no,
have a few, but a lot of them don't talk out about it,
no.
either. So
And I
certainly,
think like what the main thing I have learned through this whole PTSD journey is that nobody can help you except
that's
yourself.
right. Yeah,
But it's just having the people walking alongside you saying, I know I can't help you, but I am here. And that is worth more than anything else in the world. And
yeah,
knowing that I had all of you guys, as well as like Carl and the kids and stuff like that as well, that was what sort of helped me get through all of that as well. So um did you ever feel frustrated, confused, or powerless during that time? And I think you have been touching on it a fair bit anyway.
all three of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit of a fixer. You know what I mean? So when I
Mm,
see people in pain or in trouble or hurt or anything like that, I always try to, do what I can to fix their life or,
yeah.
to help in whatever way. But there was nothing I could do, which led to
No.
frustration.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's go to a few little light things again, because we have been quite heavy. Um, this is a tricky one. I'm interested how you're going to answer this one. Who's the most stubborn
Okay.
out of the two of us?
Um, Probably you.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'm stubborn, definitely stubborn.
Yes, you
But
are.
there's no doubt about that. And you only need to ask my wife of 26 years. And she would certainly agree with that. But no, and the only reason I was able to say that quickly and emphatically was I used to give you the typewriter quite often.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Um, and I don't know whether you listeners know, but it's basically I used to get Melissa on the ground and then go on her belly and then pretty much slap you across the cheek, which, which represented which is probably why you've got PTSD. Actually, it was your upbringing, not the cops. I don't
Probably.
know. But I remember one of the first times Kelly came to visit, and oh man, this would have been I would have been 19 or something like that,
I
and
was a
I
baby.
chased you. Yeah, I chased you down, and you knew very well I was going to give you the typewriter, and you fought and you fought and you fought and you fought, and I finally got you, and you just laid there, and I'm like, you've just taken the fun out of this, completely. Kelly was mortified as one of her first visits to the Kruger
Yeah, and she
household.
often talks about it as well. Like, and I
Yeah,
go, and then you still married him. Like,
yeah.
does that say more about you or him?
She's a brave woman,
Yeah.
but yeah, to me that really solidifies your stubbornness.
It's funny because I would almost put us as equally as stubborn, but yeah, I probably would pip you a little bit at the post with that.
I
So,
think it's a woman thing as well, and
oh,
I say that
100%.
with the greatest respect. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if you were to compare male and female of the same stubbornness, I would like to suggest that the woman would always win.
Yeah. And that's a very good comment to make, because as you know, I've done a couple of ultra marathons and stuff like that, and women are much more determined to finish than men, and you
Yeah,
find a lot more men get the do not finish as opposed to the women, because of our determination and stubbornness, for want of a better word, as well, just trying to push it through. So who knows where
yeah.
that stems from, but yeah. What's one habit or saying of mine that you reckon sums me up perfectly?
What a habit or saying of that you say?
Yeah,
Oh,
I think I really have any.
um, no, I can't think of anything. I think you've said a few times recently, it is what it is,
Yeah.
which I hate. Not coming
Why do you
from
hate that?
that, not coming from you specifically. I just hate it. I think it's just such a defeatist term.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's kind of like, oh well, it is what it is. Let's just ignore it, avoid it, move on.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like it at all. It
Which is
is
funny because I have a different perspective. Say it is what it is. You can't change it, but how can we mold around it to make
absolutely.
ourselves better as a result of it? So it's funny how we interpret different things, like the same
Yeah.
saying, differently. So,
Yeah.
yeah. If our relationship was a weather forecast, what would it be?
Volatile. It actually reminds me of the bloody weather reports that you get every day. It's going to be chance of sunshine, chance of cloud, chance of storms, hail, tornadoes, and you get through the day and you've had not a drop of rain. It's been sunshine the whole thing.
Yeah,
But
that's actually a
no,
very good
I
saying.
think your and I relationship is wonderful, because we either of us know what we're going to get.
Yeah,
I think we're quite moody at times as well, particularly when we're tired. So you
yeah,
start having a go at me when I'm tired. Well, yeah, it's volatile, and
yeah.
the same for you. So
Well, that's a good
yeah.
one. I like that. All right. So, when things were at their hardest for me, how did you personally deal with that?
Um, Probably just a lot of self-reflection, um, helplessness, and prayer.
Yeah,
Definitely a lot of prayer.
yeah. And did my experience with PTSD change how you think about mental health?
Oh, significantly, without question. And as I said to you, I did a lot of research on it myself because I was so ignorant to it and almost, as I said earlier, disbelieved that it was a thing.
Yeah,
I think it was just almost like I used to think that it was almost like a scapegoat response. Oh, this is just too hard to deal with. So I'm just going to claim PTSD
yeah,
without knowing the actual um, diagnosis, I suppose.
yeah,
And by doing that research, I was really, really exposed to how tragic it is
yeah,
and how helpless outsiders can be throughout that.
yeah,
Um, I mean, one of the biggest things that I researched was time. Um, and I'm such an impatient guy. I like to push things. I've learnt not to do that only recently. But when you see someone like yourself going through PTSD without the full comprehension of what it actually is and how it affects the person or affects you, um, yeah, it's hard work because you just don't know what to do. And again, from the outset, thinking that it was just a thing,
yeah,
almost made up,
yeah,
just by pure ignorance. And let's face it, it's only really become more and more um, researched and more widely known now of I mean, imagine these guys back in Second World War, Vietnam. I mean, the
mm.
Vietnam, vets and stuff like that had nothing like this. And now you
No,
look
but
back and think,
and
far out.
talking
Like
about
they
that,
are,
you look at Orpa. Orpa
yeah,
100% had PTSD from World War II, but it was never
yeah.
spoken about. Like we weren't
No, well,
allowed
he
to
just
make any
became a
loud
recluse,
noises.
right?
That's exactly right. So, yeah, there has
And I
been a
think
lot
even
more
as a man,
research.
I think there's been such a significant um, change in the male, and again, struggling to articulate it, but years and years ago, no one spoke about it, right? Now, I had
Yeah,
a bit of a rough time last year and I sought the help of a psychologist and I had, multiple sessions there and it was brilliant. But for me, it was so humbling and almost humiliating that a man would have to seek help.
yeah,
But we live in a day and age now where it's actually okay. Like,
yeah.
and
That's the
I
stigma
would,
behind it, isn't it?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's so, oh, what sort of a man are you? You can't cry in public, and I mean, growing up, seeing my father cry once,
Yeah,
in pretty much my whole childhood, and that was when he slipped a disc, and he was just in extraordinary pain. I
yeah,
mean, that was just how he grew up.
yeah,
You didn't cry, you toughened up, and you got on with life,
mm,
and so that was a massive learning curve for me, watching you go through it, but then researching and actually learning what it was about. But with that, also understanding that it's a thing and you need to speak up. And,
yeah,
whether that's just day-to-day communication with your spouse or your best mate or your loved ones, I think
mm,
it's so imperative that it's done. And I think now that's why we've got these helplines and we have these different avenues for people that are PTSD, they're suicidal, they suffer from depression or any of these mental health issues. Um, I think it's paramount, but
yeah,
I truly believe that it's only recent that
yeah,
that has actually come to light. And again, I really feel sorry for our forefathers that never really had that.
Yeah. And in your defense, like you said that you thought it was people just ticking a box of PTSD to get out of something that they didn't want to do. Like before I was diagnosed, I certainly believed for that as well. Like we would have people leaving the cops with PTSD. I went, oh, they're just after the payout or whatever it is. So there was that stigma. Yeah, that's
let's
exactly
be honest.
right.
We literally just called them sooks. Like, toughen
Yeah.
up, you're a buffhead. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Was there anything about PTSD that surprised you or challenged your assumptions?
The whole lot surprised me.
Yeah.
And I just explained that. The whole lot surprised me and it challenged me.
Yeah, 100%.
But someone that likes to research things before I have an opinion, and or if you go to market or whatever, just researching it was amazing. And it's helped me now as friends to people that are going through it as well. He's brilliant.
Yeah, that's good. What do you think people don't realize about supporting a family member with PTSD?
A lot. I don't think they understand anything about it. I think they're probably a lot like me, or a lot like I was, in that they just think that it's just another thing as such.
Yeah.
And so
but
my recommendation.
No, you go.
Oh, I was just going to say my recommendation for anyone that knows anyone that is suffering trauma or PTSD or anything like that, spend a few hours researching it. Learn. I mean, the things that I learned by research of how to attack it, how to be supportive, but also how to deal with it myself as an outsider. So highly recommend just, get some help yourselves.
I think it's hard to know about something until you're put in the position where you need to understand it.
Like, well, you don't know what you don't know, right?
That's exactly right. So, and until you're put in that spot where you go, oh shit, now we've got PTSD that we need to look at, then you become aware of it as well. So yeah, like you said, you don't know what you don't know. So as long as you're
But it's something that you don't expect either. You don't have friends or family that join the armed forces, that join, first responders. You don't have friends that are doctors, and you don't have all of these friends that you do life with that you prepare yourself for them having PTSD. As I said, it was probably easier to prepare for a knock on the door than what it was to prepare, because you just don't live your life expecting the worst, right? Particularly, an optimistic sort of a person and family. Oh, yeah, hang on, guys, let's all huddle together. We need to expect Melissa's going to get PTSD. It just never happened.
No. And can you remember a moment where you noticed I was getting stronger and finding my feet again?
Yeah, you bet. That was a massive answer to prayer. And it's only probably been recently, if I was honest, probably the last 12 months, I'd like to suggest. And the times that I visited you in hospital, I was scared because I had the perception of, oh no, Fez is back in again, and it's almost now, and hear my heart here and let me finish, but it was almost like, oh, she's just going for another escape or things like that. And particularly the third visit, I'm thinking, oh, far out, she should be better by now, and all this sort of stuff. So again, ignorance in terms of the speed of healing and getting better. But in answer to your question, there was, and it wasn't like a light switch moment where it was just like, oh, Melissa's back. There was a series of things that I witnessed over the past 5 years, particularly the past 12 years, that I noticed that was very encouraging and very positive. And it was just, a lot of it was just your demeanor, your voice. There was times there that even your attitude and your speech was quite defeatist, negative. It was not that all hope was lost, but do you know what I mean? Like there was
hope lost.
Almost that tone in your voice. It was like, oh yeah, another day that I've got to battle through or anything like that. I just think, watching and listening, the change of attitude and even the way that you talk and look at life was probably a real telltale sign for me that you're on the up and up.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And for me, um, so I haven't been back in hospital since August last year. So it's been that's been my longest gap in between hospital stays. And I think that last hospital stay was the point where I could start to see my life picking up again, and I can see that, and I know other people can see that as well. So I think that's refreshing, not only for myself but for my listeners as well, to know that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that we just need to keep pushing through those hard days, because they're not going to be hard days forever, although when you're in it it feels like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
Can I
definitely.
just say something that may help your listeners as well in relation to PTSD,
100%.
and from an outsider looking in? Don't rush the process would probably be the biggest recommendation I would have, because again, there were a lot of times that I thought, okay, she's on some meds, she's gone to the hospital. When she walks out, she's going to be fixed.
Yeah.
And when that doesn't occur, I became frustrated, and I don't think anyone listening should become frustrated. Just be supportive and understand that there is a process, and unfortunately, there's no time frame on the healing with these things. And where I think I'm very routine based, and I'm very organized and meticulous, and you know that very well, because you'd come to my office and move one of my computer screens 3 millimeters, and I'd get upset because I knew that you'd do it. So being someone that is, you know, very not time driven, but very driven, and very routine based and all that, it's very, very easy to look from the outside in and think, okay, she's gone through this particular checklist. At the bottom now, it's all over. Let's get on with life. And it's not the case. So my biggest recommendation is don't put a time on it, as I did, because it's just frustrating. And it's frustrating because there almost becomes an expectation on the person with PTSD to then get better. And when that doesn't happen, you start questioning whether what they're doing is the right thing to do. So just continue being supportive and just be patient.
Yeah, I think patience is the best recommendation, because everybody's timeline's different, and it's not a magic wand cure. And I know for myself and everybody else who has PTSD, it's something that we're going to have lifelong. So there might come a time in 6 months' time where I'm back in hospital, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that I'm all the way back at the bottom of where I was, but I've just had a little hiccup and things like that. So don't be discouraged when your loved ones are looking like they're going backwards. But it's that whole saying, like 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards. You're still making progress, but it just looks different. So
and I think that's important for everyone to know, is that it's okay. You know, as long as we don't regress back to where we were, but as I said, you're constantly moving forward, and it's that CANI acronym, you know, constant, never-ending improvement, which I think helps.
Yeah, definitely. What have you learnt about resilience or strength through all of this?
Both of those things are fundamental to living life.
Yeah.
Full stop,
100%.
regardless of your circumstances. And yes, you need to have those in every circumstance, as a parent, as a husband, as a wife, as a business owner, particularly with PTSD as well. But it's just paramount. I mean, going back to what we were sort of talking about there, I mean, just marriage. You need resilience, and you need effort. And I think anyone with PTSD needs to make an effort, as hard as that sounds and as brash as that sounds. There has to be there is always a way forward, right? But you've got to do it. I mean, no one can get you up out of the bed, Fez, to get yourself to hospital, and you did all of that yourself with pure resilience. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that. I mean, we should look back at the past, right? But only to learn from it. And and we can use that in every aspect of life as well. Good decisions, bad decisions. And I'm not saying that life's not going to throw any more curveballs at you. In fact, I believe that we're all going to get a lot more throughout our life, but without resilience and stamina and positivity and a willingness to actually move forward, well, you won't move forward.
Yeah. And I think that's important to learn as well, that you need to have that willingness to take that next step. And even if that next step is hard, it's like ripping the Band-Aid off. So
Yeah. Yep.
What's something you're proud of me for, even if I don't say it enough?
Your resilience, your stubbornness.
Yeah.
I mean, it just encapsulates everything that we've spoken of, man. And you're now doing this podcast as a way of moving forward. Whether you recognise that or not, I can see that it is, and it was probably a decision on your part to do so. Yeah, I'm just so proud of you for sticking your hand up, I think, recognising that you had an issue and dealing with it. I think a lot of people probably hide under the covers for way too long, probably longer than they should, which only makes the problem worse. So a couple of things I'm proud of. So, yeah, they're both of them.
Thank you. If you could say one thing to me now as my brother about this whole journey, what would it be?
God is good.
Through that.
God is very kind. He's forgiving. He's helping us every day of the week, every minute of the day. And yeah, to see you go through what you did, and to come out. And again, I'm not saying this is the end of the road. It's probably only a small chapter in a very big book. But for you to have faith in the outcome is just significant.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So before we wrap up, as you know, you are also in charge of the thought of the week. And so what is this one, Matthew?
All right. My thought of the week, which I've thought long and hard about, which kind of ties into a song I'm kind of hoping I can finish with as well. Do
you want to do the song first or the thought first?
No, I'll do the thought first, being that we're here. So I'm just going to read a Bible verse, which is from Romans 12:2. I'm going to read in 3 versions. It won't take long. It says, "Don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect." That was in the NLT, the New Living Translation. The New International Version is, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." And finally, in the New King James, "And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good and acceptable and perfect will of God." And when I first started reading that verse, I actually thought that, do not conform to the ways of the world is, don't be a murderer, don't, do all of those things. But I actually think that what God is trying to tell us here is, don't be anxious, don't conform to the anxieties of the world, the pressures of the world, the things that we think we need to do. And I think that we just need to be filled with peace, and it's difficult. I'm a pretty controlling person as such, where I like to know the outcome and I push the outcome of certain things. But it's only been recently that I've really learned to let go and let God. And I think throughout your journey, I think that's been a significant factor in your reparation, in your healing, because you've had to let go. You can't change the outcome of a lot of things. So I just thought I'd finish on that thought. So for anyone out there trying and striving and trying to push and bend their I don't know, their healing for PTSD or for anything that they suffer, or even just dealing with the day-to-day life, for anyone that's trying to push an outcome, just give it to God. Hey. Yeah.
And is this where you want to do the next song?
Yeah. Let's listen to this.
What was that?
It's called Peace, or There Is a Peace. Hang on one sec.
Who's
Yeah,
it by again?
it's sung by Harvest, and the song is called There Is a Peace.
All right, let's have a listen to that now.
You've been tempted and shaken, tested and failed. You've been so far from Jesus and too close to hell. Oh, your vision's been clouded by this world's delight. But it tells you you're not of this world, so stand up and fight. You're not of this world, so stand up and fight. There's a peace to settle your soul. There is a peace that is calling you home. And there is a peace to settle your soul.
Yeah, that was a beautiful song. I really liked that.
Yeah,
What
the words
resonated
really,
with
really.
you?
Yeah, I think just we try to do things on our own volition. We try to do things from our own motivations and stuff like that. But in that song, it just really, really emphasizes that there is a peace. We actually can have peace
Yeah.
when we trust that God will give it to us.
And that's comforting to know.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else you want to add quickly before we wrap up?
Keep doing what you're doing, Fez. You're
Thanks, Matthew.
bloody awesome. You're a fantastic sister. You're a great mum. You're an awesome wife. You're an awesome daughter to mum and dad. You're positive. You're motivated. You've got a really, really amazing creative brain, which I certainly don't have. Just keep doing what you're doing, eh? I'm so proud of you. Honestly, I can't articulate how proud I am of you, and particularly with just your achievements. I mean, let's just, focus on those more so than the PTSD. But I mean, your achievements in life have been amazing. What you've done, and the 3 beautiful kids that you've raised and put up with Carl for so many years.
Yeah, that's been
Love you, Uncle Carl. Put up with me for so many years. But no, as I said, I'm just so proud of you. I just thank you for this opportunity, and I'm sorry that it's taken so long to get me on.
Don't be sorry. It's all things
I've really
happen
enjoyed it
in its own time, and this is when it was meant to come out. So yeah,
absolutely. And I just keep on doing what you're doing. I'm proud to see. I'm pumped to see where this podcast will take you and where the next 40 odd years will take you. I think it's just, honestly, I sometimes think that we go through things. I think we go through adverse times brought on by the devil, brought on by the enemy, because he is so crap scared of the significance that we play in this lifetime. And I'm really, really excited to see where God's taking you, because you've certainly been through the ringer. And I think if we focus on the what next, that's pretty damn exciting.
Yeah. No, thank you. I really appreciate that. And it's been good having a chat. And like I said to mum and dad after theirs, I think it's been quite cathartic for me to be interviewing you guys, to be able to talk about how my journey has impacted you as well. And I know you said that this podcast has helped me, and this podcast has been a savior. Like, it's been my dear diary. It's so cathartic for me to be able to raise my concerns and my worries and where I am at that time when I'm recording. And I always make it very, very clear that if I'm having a bad day, I don't sugarcoat it. And I think that's important for listeners to know, that it's okay to have a bad day and things like that. So yeah, look, I'm very interested to see where this podcast takes me as well. But yeah, so thanks for being part of this. I really, really appreciate it. And I can't say that enough. And hearing your side of things means more than you could probably realize. So thank you again. And to everybody listening, thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time. Have a good week and be kind to yourself.
Thanks, heaps, Ferret.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for tuning in to Mad Mel's Mic. I'm Melissa Smith, and I hope you've enjoyed listening. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, and don't forget to like and follow. Have a great week, and don't forget to be kind to yourself.